Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline. Right, first things first, let's get this right up front. I need to do a trigger warning. I've never done one of these, at least I don't think I've done one of these before. Some of the content in today's episode, in this podcast, however you refer to them, talks about water fasting. At length. I am aware from other podcasts that this subject can be triggering for some people, and I want everybody to be aware that that is in this episode. If that is something that you feel strongly about, or that it's not a good subject for you, this might be an episode to skip, or I'm pretty sure at the point in time that it comes up, I do mention it again, so maybe you can just skip it. So there we go. Before all that, let's do the fun stuff. We'll talk about like, share, subscribe, comment, leave reviews, all of the stuff that make podcast happen. Make podcast happen? That's not it. Do those things. If you haven't already, do them. It's a big help to the podcast, and we'll really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline. Hello. How's it going? You well? Good? Feeling good? Being good? Being good. That's a good one. Well, it's a funny old time at the moment, and I'm going to bore you people with it. So there's that. I might have to put some sort of trigger warning on the start of this. This is it, by the way, because I don't know how to do these things. So, I once listened to a podcast that had a subject in which I'm going to discuss in this podcast. And after that podcast, there was another podcast where the person involved had to issue like a formal apology for the subject of the previous podcast. With me so far? Because of its ability to trigger certain people. So, just so we're all on the same page, there is a subject matter in today's podcast, and not going to lie, it is the biggest section of today's podcast that some people may find to be sensitive, and if that's the case, you probably shouldn't listen. I will put the subject matter on the intro, so if you've listened to the intro, you'll already know what I'm talking about, and there, we're all on the same page. However, if you want something that's going to trigger me, let's talk about this. Coming up to... we've just gone into the 5th. Does that make sense? I've got a calendar in front of me and I can't work it out. Let's say 5th, so we're not arguing. We've just started the 5th week of the summer holidays. My older children currently aren't here, and are due to return at the end of this week. So, I'm too far away from the microphone. Being the kind of parent that I am, constantly feeling bad about absolutely everything, I was like, maybe I should look at doing something nice. Not that I don't at all times. I just mean something nice for when they come back and do something nice for the whole family. Maybe what we should do is we should look at going away. Just for one night. And it's largely to do with our previous trip to the beach and previous trips that I've taken to the beach. It's this really long, probably mental thing that I have. If you go to the beach for 3 hours, I don't feel like you can relax is maybe not the right word, but we'll go with that for now. Properly. So there's, again, this will sound harsher than I mean it, but there's almost no point. And I don't mean there's no point in going. I mean there's no point in attempting to relax because you literally don't have the time. Now, years gone by, there was this whole theory that if you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get in the car and go, and you have some sort of breakfast-based food when you get to the beach, you've got the entire day, leave at 3 in the afternoon, travel back, and you make the most of the day. It's a lot more worthwhile, but getting 4 children out the door at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's just not happening. It's as simple as that. So I'm like, right, okay. I will look at us going to stay overnight at a beach not too far away. Now, I know what you're thinking. You must be crazy. Yes, I'm not that crazy. Although the jury's still out, and I imagine by the end of this podcast, I imagine the jury's going to deliver its verdict. So, I Google the local, I say local, an hour away beach, hotel. Now, to make things easy, I went with a well-known chain hotel. Obviously, I don't like to use names of companies, products and things like that, especially if I'm going to go on to talk not overly positively about company, product, whatever. So, think of the first large chain hotel that comes to mind. Yeah, it's that one. So I'm like, I want to stay on this day for one night. No interest in breakfast, meals, or anything. First thing, it's like, how many people? I was like, here we go. All right, 2 adults, 4 children. It's like, oh, okay. Well, firstly, you need 2 rooms. I'm like, okay, fair enough. That makes sense. So I'm like, how can we split it? We'll do a combination. We'll do 1 adult per room. We'll do a combination of children. I can already imagine which children would want to spend time together, and which children it makes sense to spend time together. Bearing in mind, ultimately, it's just somewhere to sleep. It's like, okay. So in my head, I'm like, let's go, let's go up there. Let's go 60 quid a room. Most of you are laughing right now. 2 rooms, £120. No meals, no nothing. Money saved there can then go towards, going somewhere and actually having a meal. Going somewhere and actually having a sit-down breakfast. Buying lunch, which is a very much double-edged sword, shall we say. And it's a lot sharper on one side. So, it's like, do you need any of these extra things? And there was a long list of things, of which I said no to all of them. I was like, right, okay, so what you've said is you want to come on this day for one night. You'll need 2 rooms. You don't want any extras. It's just essentially somewhere to sleep. I said, yes, absolutely. So then the internet ran away to get all the information, because with it being a chain and apparently having more than one in the area, they were like, oh, well, we'll go and find you, do they have vacancies and do they have the rooms to accommodate? And it returned and said, yes, I think it said there were 3. And they are all in various different ways able to accommodate your needs. And I went, cool. The way the internet often prices these things is lowest to highest. So it put 3 in order of lowest to highest. They wanted nearly £400. Now, somebody right now is listening to this and going, well, yeah, of course they did. And you're thinking, well, a combination of things, 2 rooms, smack in the middle of the summer holidays or towards the back end of the summer holidays, a popular tourist destination and a multitude of other things means that is a reasonably priced stay. Some of you are thinking, it's a little on the pricey side. It's a little, it's up there. It's a chunk of change. That's for sure. And then there's me there going, I don't know how to process this information. You want just shy of £400 for one night in a... Let's put it this way. It's not a 5-star hotel. There were pictures of the rooms on the sort of possible booking sort of section type thing. And basic would probably cover a 1-word description. Then I'm like, all 3 of these hotels came back saying that they had not 1 but 2 rooms available on that day at that time. And, it's I would say, a very popular point in time to go for a particular reason, which will remain, a mystery. Who the fuck is paying £400 to stay in a just above basic hotel room for one night? I'd be better off driving there and back 8 times for no apparent reason and still having money left over. The sheer insanity of that situation. I then did maybe this is some kind of like premium version, and I triple checked the others and went, no, it gets more expensive as you go through it. So then I went, okay, try again. Let's not go with like a chain. Let's just go with, hotel destination. The internet will do the rest for me. And the internet was like, yeah, that's sort of the price you're going to be paying. Absolute insanity. Now I have some knowledge of the hotel game. I've never heard prices like that mentioned. I used to work in a very prestigious hotel. Those rooms, bearing in mind we're talking 20-something years ago, so admittedly, I don't even think those rooms broke £100. Like the best of the best of the best might have just broken £100, maybe. Times that by 2. Probably included a breakfast at that point in time. You're looking a couple of £100. And honestly, if it had come back saying, a couple of £100, I'd have been like, bit more than I wanted to pay, but I'd consider it, and then I'd look at the logistics of everything else and just offset that cost. £400. £400. Do you know what? Do you know the level of things that I could do with that money? All I could think was, there is no surprise to me that you've got rooms available, and maybe you should address that before trying to charge people £400. Knock £100 off, see if that does you any better business. Somebody had said to me, like, because I was telling this story, this, riveting story to somebody, and they were like, oh, you should look at Airbnb, but the irony is that I despise the concept of Airbnb, whilst now seeing where it came from. People were like, I'm not giving you £400 to stay in a just above basic hotel. Can somebody rent me their house and I'll give you £400 for the pleasure? And there we go. Airbnb was born. Oh, absolute insanity. Speaking of insanity, maybe that's the theme of today's podcast. Who knows? I went out on a Saturday night into town. I physically cannot tell you how many years ago that last happened. Not even joking, exaggerating or anything. Years, and I mean years and years and years. I'm going to hazard a guess at it being 6. Because I can imagine the point in time that it probably happened. But honestly, years and years and years. But I got an invite to attend a birthday celebration, and I'm at that age now where I'm a bit like, I don't even have to give a reason not to do stuff. That's the age I've reached. And honestly, it's quite comforting. I was recently asked if I was going to do something, and I said no. And I was like, my God, that's freaking liberating. And then I was asked if I was going to do something else off the back of it, and I was like, no. That was the end of it. That was the end of the conversation. That was the end of all roads just stopped. And I went, man, if I'd have been doing that years ago, I wonder what difference it would have made to my life. Like across the board. If I go back and put that scenario into a multitude of situations, my word, my life would be completely different. However, I got invited to a birthday celebration for somebody that I, a friend. It's really long-winded to go into, so let's just say that I got invited to go to a birthday celebration for a friend, and it was a situation where I looked at it and I went, I not only don't think I can say no, I also don't want to say no. I'd like to go and celebrate this person's birthday, and that's the end of it. So I'm like, a week away, I'm like, right, okay, I need to gear myself up for the knowledge that I'm going out on Saturday. So the plan is to get there as soon as possible, to do the show your face kind of situation. Also, do it early enough so that people remember you were there. And then just excuse yourself after a certain amount of time and leave. All of those things I felt were acceptable, and all of those things ticked all of the boxes they need to, i.e., you know I was there because you weren't drunk enough to not know, and hopefully appreciate that I came and I stayed and then I left. Tick, 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 tick. That's the way I looked at it. So, where is it? Okay, it's at this place. I don't know where that is because I don't know where anything is these days. I don't know where anything is. Not a great start. Somebody later in the week said to me, oh, it's here. And I went, cool. I went back to the invite and went, yeah, that was on the invite. Not a great start. But At least knew where I was going, just about. So, the whole time I was planning this part of the podcast, I was like, there's one word that perfectly describes my feelings about the entire situation, and it is hands down probably my least favourite word. So I knew that I was going to have to try and describe certain situations without using a particular word. So let's see how I do. Years and years and years and years ago, 18, 19, 20 and beyond. Not years, age. You know when you knew you were going out? Oh, I'm going out on Saturday, it's going to be absolutely banging. Gonna get some, gonna make sure I've got plenty of money for some drinky drinks. Gonna make sure I could go into a club. Then who knows what'll happen after that. Over the course of the years, it was, every now and then you'd remember that you're going out and great times were going to be had. Fast forward a couple of years, 5 years or so, it's like, I'm going out on Saturday. I just need to make sure I've done this and done that, and I can't really afford it, but I did say I'd go and all that sort of stuff. And you went and you had a fantastic time. A few more years pass by. Then it turns into, for fuck's sake, I've got to go out on Saturday. Oh, God, it's going to be awful. Oh, God, there's going to be people there I don't want to see. Oh, God, it's going to be a nightmare. Oh, I've got to go into town. Oh, God. And this begins the descent into, do you know what? I'm not going. Fast forward a few years, you haven't been out for a long time because that's not what you do anymore. And there we go. That is the progress of it. Fast forward a few more years, and you get to where I am. I don't drink. I don't do anything like that. I don't go out. I don't socialise. I'm a grumpy old man who sits in his house being grumpy about things. There we go. So, I've just remembered something. If I don't add it to the list, I'll forget because, like I said, we've got a big thing to go through. Anyway, as the week goes on, it's more and more like, I've got to go out on Saturday. I need to find out where it is. I should make sure I've got a bit of money because, I don't need a lot of money because I won't be there long. Then you worry, who's going to be there? You don't know who's going to be there because you don't have any involvement with the planning of the process. You don't know. You suspect, but you don't know. Oh, God, what if that person's there? That's going to make it awful. Oh, that person might be there. It might be nice to see them. I haven't seen them in 10 years. And on it goes. So I got to the day and I made absolutely sure that above all else, I was ready to rock and roll for go time. Because the plan was, remember, get there as early as possible, show my face, do the meets and the greets, and then get out there clean. Boom. Everything went fine up to a particular point where I got a little bit delayed, and we're talking like 10 minutes. That's fine, because there's no turning up late, and we all like the fashionable late these days, so worked out well. I walked in, and I went, am I in the wrong place? Turned out, no, I wasn't in the wrong place. Initially, I was like, it's a little more intimate than what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot of people, it to be quite rowdy, especially certainly when I got there, and I expected the place to be jumping. It was none of these things. It was quiet. It was secluded. It was, it was not in the centre of town. All this. So I'm like, this could be quite nice. I got to see the person whose birthday was being celebrated. It was good to see them. I haven't seen them for a little while, it turns out. So are all the sort of people that I immediately associate with them. Had a chat, met some new people, etc. And so the night ensued. Saw people I haven't seen for a while, saw people I haven't spoken to for a while. Long conversations. I was given this thing when I got there. Here you go, take this. It'll get you 20% off at the bar. I went, oh, that's awesome, thanks. So eventually, somebody's like, oh, you're going to get a drink. And I was like, this was the bit I was dreading. Like, yeah, sure, I'm off to get a drink. So I go to the bar. I was like, what non-alcoholic stuff have you got? And they listed all sorts. Hit upon a Guinness Zero, and I'm like, sign me up. And they were the tall boys as well, so you get a pint out of those bad boys. £4.50. Don't think she took the discount off. My fault. Completely forgot I had the thing. Like, £4.50 is not ideal. I'm pretty sure you can buy 4 cans for £4.50, but it is what it is. A little while later, I'm in a conversation talking to somebody, and they were like, do you want a drink? I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll get it. Don't worry about it, I'll get it. No, I'll get you a drink. I was like, no, seriously, I'll get it. Know your audience, ladies and gents. No, don't be silly. I'll get it. What do you want? Now, at this point, we're stood at the bar, and the lady's like, what can I get you? And they ordered their drink. Like, oh, what are you having? I went, Guinness Zero, which, it's a bit of a lead balloon situation in certain situations, and it was in this situation, and we had a laugh and a joke, and everything was hilariously funny. Now then, I don't know if I'm the only person that does this, but in this situation, I go, right, I now owe you a drink. So there's some point in the future I need to make sure that I buy you a drink. I need to buy the person whose birthday it is a drink, etc., etc. So, a little while passes, and I'm like, hey, do you want a drink? Oh, yeah, that'd be great, actually. I'll have a drink. What are you drinking? They told me what they were drinking. And it was another one of those situations where, me being me, I didn't listen to all of the parts of the order. Because I was like, well, you just tell them what you want and I'll get it. Because that's a lot of words for a drink. Nobody says, I'll have a pint of lager anymore. Nobody says, I'll have a Jack Daniels and Coke, mostly because they didn't have that. But anyway, so, it's this and this and this. And I might just tell the lady what you want. All right, I'll have this, blah, 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 blah. The first words were double. I'm like, that's fine. It was fine right up until she ringed up the first drink. The first drink was £9.35. I am yet to order my drink, and you're damn sure I'd said, I've got 20% discount. And she went, Didn't make that much difference, did it? My eyes were streaming at this point. And then I remembered, oh, for fuck's sake, I've still got to buy the freaking person whose birthday is a drink. I was like, I might as well take this one straight to the chops right now. So I was like, oh, do you need a drink now? Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. What are you having? Oh, it's this. Right, went back, ordered that. Got punched in the face for that one as well. And just sort of limped away. Another thing was, I made sure to take some cash with me. I was like, what do you guys do here? Is it like card or cash, whatever? Oh, we don't take cash. Yeah, that's about right, isn't it? So everything went on my card, as everything does these days. And when I say card, I just beat my phone. I think at another point I ended up buying another drink against better judgment. So 3 drinks later, I think I was 30 quid worse off. It was like, yep, that's absolute insanity. I was telling a guy I work with, I was like, I did, went out on Saturday and, it was It was absolute insanity. I told him some of the prices and he was like, that has escalated. I was like, you're telling me? So yeah, good times. Good times. Why are we doing that for a while? Although, works on the principle that by the time I next come round to do it, it'll be even more expensive. So that's comforting. I had a conversation with somebody where I was like, I don't know how you manage to go out one night a week. Because I don't know how you can physically afford it. Apparently they use a system of rounds where, yes, once every 4 drinks it's going to be painful, but the next 3 it's a little less painful. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, I suppose. Okay, strap yourselves in, kids. This is the bit I was talking about that may or may not trigger some people. Fair warning. Let's talk about water fasting. I recently got, not obsessed, just interested in water fasting. I saw an interview with Dana White. Dana White's a really weird person for me because there's a huge part of me that wants to not like him, and then there's another huge part of me that quite likes him and likes his sort of like ethos and mentality and that sort of thing, and then the two just clash with each other. So I just spend my whole time going, I don't like you, but I like what you stand for. So it's very difficult to deal with. And then I watched a video on YouTube by the Buff Dudes, which was also talking about water fasting. There was 3 of the 4 of them on Buff Dudes were doing a water fast and how they went through it. And I listened and I looked at the pros and the cons. Not gonna lie, way up there is I imagine the cons massively outweigh the pros because there aren't really any pros if you look at a week later, let's say. I think for it to be of any use, it has to be part of a routine where you do it for X amount of time, and then when you're not doing it, you are, I imagine, probably still heavily in a calorie deficit, and probably have to do a high level of exercise, I imagine. I can't give all the facts and the figures and the science and all of those sorts of things, so please don't think I can. But some of the things that I listened to were talking about some of the benefits, and a few of the benefits really stood out for me. Some of them being like resetting your mentality around food, and there was something else which right now I can't remember. So let's chop and change the information around. So, am I at this moment in time doing a water fast? Yes. Is that statement a lie or not true or false, whatever? Yes. So, what I should clarify is I am doing what I would refer to more as a liquid fast. Because water fast is exactly what it sounds like, but it isn't, and whatever. Drink high amounts of water. After a day, a couple of days, whatever, then you switch to bone broth, which obviously I can't do. And what I'm doing is for a different reason with different benefits. So the two things coincided. One, I'd heard about water fasting a little while ago. It intrigued me, but maybe not enough. It's obviously popped up at a particular point in time and a particular point in my life where it's relevant, shall we say. And I will say the biggest benefit that that stood out for me, as is obvious at this point in time, is the addressing your relationship with food. So at this point in time, it's probably worth mentioning my relationship with food has gone a little bit off the rails recently. And I know why. And I know what's caused it. I know what the issue is. I know what the problem is. And I reached a point where I said, knowing the reasons and knowing the cause and all of this isn't helping me, because I feel like I can't do anything about it. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I'd had a series of days where I was eating in excess and beyond, eating to the point of feeling unwell, etc., etc. I think there's a lot of stuff that's been going on at the moment, and I think a lot of it is me sort of riding the wave of a depression. I don't like to keep going on about it. I know there was a point in time where I was talking about it a lot on the podcast, and then I felt like I was talking about it too much and felt like I needed to give my head a shake and move on. Sidebar, something that I've written down that I wanted to just throw out there, but something that's I have a question. I don't know if anybody can answer this question or if anyone can shed light on it, but quick question. People who are bad people who are genuinely bad people, how do those people operate? Do they get out of bed in the morning and they go, I'm going to be a bad person today and I'm going to spend my entire day being a bad person? Do they operate in the sense of, I am a good person who does bad things? Do they operate in the sense of they think they're the good guy? Or a multitude of other possibilities? But what is it? Been a thing recently, I've had like a series of dealings with a series of different people, and being aware of a variety of different things for a variety of different people. And it's that sort of realization where you're like, oh, you are a genuinely bad person. You are a bad person. You get out of bed every day and you are not a good person. And that's that. But my fear is that they think they are. My fear is that they, I don't know, think it's everyone else. I had a situation today whilst driving. I'll come on to driving. In fact, I don't think I made a note. No, I did, but I'll just make a quick note. A situation today whilst driving where I was like, what kind of a person does that thing? And I was like, a bad person. That's what it is. That person is a bad person, and that's why they did that thing. I had a conversation a little while ago where the other person was just rattling off all of these things, and I was like, Jesus Christ, you are truly awful. You are a truly awful person. But then, getting past that hump, I was like, do you know? Or do you think the things that you're saying right now are okay? Do you think you're like, lols, yeah, that's funny? Or do you know that what you're saying makes you a bad person? Obviously, we are all aware of the bad person that thinks they're the good guy. The bad person that's like, I'm the good guy of the story. There's been a multitude of different things recently where it's like, oh my God, they think either they're the good guy or they're the victim in this situation. Yet anybody looking at that situation be like, no, you're the bad guy of the story. And not even a little bit. You are the monster under the bed bad guy of the story. Anyway, that was just a side thing. So, clearly riding the crest, the wave of a depression. And I know why, and I know how, and I know what, and I know the cause, and blah, 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 blah. And I went, there is nothing I can do about this. And that directly translated to eating. I went, I know exactly what's wrong. I need to stop eating this. I need to stop eating that. I need to stop eating too much of it. I need to stop eating at wrong times. I need to stick to my diet. I need to stick to the intermittent fasting. I need to stop doing this and stop doing that and stop doing the other. And I realised that I couldn't. Now, take from that what you will. If we had 4 hours to go through this, I could maybe try and explain it. But just you're gonna read into that the way you're gonna read into it. Go nuts. So Friday rolls round. It is the absolute height. Up to that point, it had been the absolute height of the worst of the worst of the worst. And I just went, I've had enough. And I think this was the point where the depression broke and turned into full-blown depression. And I had a variety of things going on. And not all of them were good. And I was like, do you know what? Fuck it. So it's 10 to 10 on Monday. At this point in time, I haven't eaten since Friday. But I have drunk. Water. Check. Juice type, not orange juice, like a cordial. Check. Coffee. Now, coffee's high on the list of things that has to go. And I have a single sugar in a cup of coffee. I have been drinking coffee. That has not gone. Also, bought coffees from my favourite coffee shop. Anybody that watches the podcast will know what I mean by that. They have also not gone. Reason being, because they've got sugar in, and they've got a lot of sugar in. Now, anybody that knows anything knows that we're already fallen at the first hurdle, because the idea is to get rid of all of those things. Sugar, carbohydrates, etc. All that, whatever. It didn't happen quite the way you might think. Saturday rolled round. I felt like shit, mentally and physically, and I was like, I'm not going to eat today, and then I'll just have my Saturday cheat meal, and then I won't eat on Sunday. And that's 2 days where I've not really eaten, and it might put me a little bit back on track. As I mentioned, I was out Saturday night, so didn't eat all day Saturday, didn't eat my cheat meal Saturday night, went to bed having not eaten. And that was kind of the start of things. Because ultimately, I could have got up on Sunday and eaten. Well within my rights. Absolutely no problems there. But I didn't. I was like, I'll get through Sunday as I would normally. It's 2 days not eating. And I'll just have my tea Sunday night. Clean. Out the door. No problem. Come to Sunday night. No tea for this guy. So, at this point, 48 hours. Now comes the problem. Problem being is, it's turned into a thing. So I go to work today. I take my lunch with me. You know, veg, hummus, etc. I'm sure at some point today I'll get to the point where I'm super hungry, having not eaten for 2 days, and will eat my lunch. Brought my lunch home with me. Haven't had any tea this evening, got on the treadmill instead. Will I eat tomorrow? I don't know. At this point in time, I'm starting to wonder if there's maybe a kind of some sort of challenge in this. And I'm starting to wonder how far I can actually push it. So let's talk pros and cons. Headache. I think it was Sunday. Had a headache. And it was one of those where I was like, well, it's probably just dehydration, so I need to absolutely muller the water. What I will say is my water consumption is through the roof. I've drunk a pint while I've been sat here talking to you, and it's probably, I was going to say it's probably my 10th of the day. That is way under. So water consumption, massively off the charts. On the other hand, coffee consumption is also way up. It's kind of like some sort of weird cheat I'm using where I'm like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow myself to have the coffee because I know it's got the sugar in, and I know it will also keep me awake and alert, because I know that if I go full bore, those are the sorts of things that are going to start going. The faculties will start to go. So, I had a cold coffee in the fridge Saturday. With going out, I never drank it. But I was like, cheeky little trick. So, what I'll do is I'll save that for Sunday morning. When I drank it Sunday morning, wasn't even morning, it was mid-morning, I could feel what I presume was the sugar entering my brain. It was the weirdest and most comforting feeling I think I've ever felt. I could feel, it was like fingers going up the back of my head and across my brain. It was so weird, but kind of nice. I did feel a little bit ill. Not more like how I felt like, I feel a bit rough. But within half an hour, all that passed, and I was just, back to normal. Some pros and cons to talk about. One of the things that's high on the here's a massive con is that doing this whole thing can make you largely quite irritable. Now, I can't afford that for a variety of reasons. One, I can't take my irritability to work. I can't take it out on the people I live with. And for me personally, it's not good. I am an irritable person. I am irritated quite easily. So I don't need that in my life. I've done a lot to try and remove it as best I can, so I don't need it. For reference, see coffee. There was a cheat, there was a hack involved. This has got to be the weirdest one on the list. Felt like it made me a better parent. Don't know why. Don't know what the connection is. But I felt like I had more time. I felt more attentive. I felt less irritable. I felt more able to communicate with my children. Multitude of parenting positive things. I've stopped. I've stopped having a go as much, and I've started just staring. You know, the parent stare. I think I might have perfected it. So, yeah. It's starting to turn into like a Bluey episode as far as parenting is concerned. The big one, weigh myself. It's Monday, so I weighed myself this morning. I've lost 5 pounds. And I am the second lowest weight I have been this year. Benefits right there. Now, one thing I can tell you that I know almost for fact at this point in time, this isn't a permanent thing. The moment I eat something, I'm going to put all the weight back on. The moment I have a week of eating, that weight will return. At this point in time, I am trying to work out a way to stop that from happening. I'm working on a sort of a get out, an exit strategy. Haven't quite got there. I was Googling vegan bone broth today. That is a long story, and no, it didn't start out as vegan bone broth. That's why I said it's a long story, because, you know, fuck vegans. So, from weight perspective, cool. Couple of other things that are irritable. No. Not really. Not overly. Not that I can say I've noticed. I imagine somebody else will tell you a completely different version of events. However, I got in the car this evening to drive home. I am not great behind the wheel. It is where a lot of my bad traits come out. And I'm aware of it, and I am also working on it. My children have started picking up on it, and not for the best, let's put it that way. So I'm trying to work on it and do better. I got in the car to drive home this evening. I may or may not have had a child in the car. And holy shitballs, the absolute worst I've ever been. So, heightened irritability at times that I am naturally irritable is what I would say there. Working out, let's talk about that one. I think we can all agree. We all know the TV show that we watched as a child where somebody didn't eat for a number of days and passes out. If I'm honest, that's what I've been... Not that. If I'm honest, that's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for some sort of lightheadedness to kick in, and it hasn't. So, I think maybe that's what I'm sort of waiting for. I went for a run this morning, fully expecting to get so far through it, run out of steam, run out of energy, run out of gas, and not be able to do it. On one hand, that did happen. On the other hand, it passed. Oh, speaking of things that passed, in 4 days, 3 and a bit days, I felt hungry, truly, genuinely starving hungry 3 times. And each of those times has passed, obviously. Yes, there was a point whilst I was out running this morning where I was like, oh no, here it comes, I'm not going to be able to do this run anymore. And it passed, and I carried on running and ran home. And that was kind of that. Working out, I was like, will the workout be the thing that kills me off? No. Working out has been a kind of, oh wow, I'm really surprised that not only can I still do this, I almost feel like I can do it better. What I will say is this, just so that this doesn't get too long in the tooth, I would say if you have any interest in this, look up Waterfast Caveman Principle. There's a theory that when certain things leave your body, like foods and sugars and glucose and stuff, that you go into this like primal energy reserve type thing. It's very long to go through, but yes. couple of more downsides. One, how do I put this without going into too much detail? Not great toilet experiences. Toilet has been few and far between. I've been peeing like a racehorse, as I'm sure you could imagine. Other toilet, not as much, obviously. But when it happens, it's like, oh, I need to go to the toilet right now. And when you go to the toilet, it's like, that wasn't fun. I have to kind of presume it's some sort of like expelling impurities, because that's one of the things that goes with water fasting. But obviously, we're not doing a water fast, we're doing a liquid fast. So it could be related to the high sugar in my diet at this point in time. And when I say high sugar, it's actually no higher, it's lower sugar than it would normally be. So, somebody who knows about these things probably has a better idea. Another thing, and again, not quite sure how to cover this without being, without putting it a certain way. This evening I hurt part of my anatomy without having any knowledge of how I've done it. One of my testicles hurts. I don't know if there is a connection. I'll leave you with that one. It hurts. It still hurts. I don't know how I've done it. I don't know if it's connected. But it hurts and has hurt all evening. So, there we go. Would I recommend a water fast? Honestly, if I took coffee out of the situation, I would not have made it this far. It's that simple. Will I continue this tomorrow? Probably. Like I say, I'm kind of waiting for the bad, oh no, I think I'm going to pass out to happen. What I am intending to do from this point on is to try and start weighing myself each day. I have a goal. That goal is to get to the lowest weight of the year, which is actually quite easily done. I imagine there's a chance that I'm probably there now. So if I weigh myself in the morning, I'll probably be the lowest weight of the year. That will put me 3 pounds away from dropping into another stone, which honestly at this point in time I think I'd really like. So there's a part of me that wants to do that. Once upon a time, a few years back, I didn't eat or drink for 8 days. And in that time I lost a stone. Now, obviously, we're not in that position at this point in time, but I'd really like to lose a stone. So, you know, maybe that's a thing. Maybe. We'll have to see. I imagine there's absolutely no chance that I'm not going to do some sort of update this time next week. So let's see. The biggest number one focus at this point in time, and I cannot stress this enough, is there has to be a way to reduce the amount of weight I put back on when I go back to eating. So that is my focus. That is my number one focus. And maybe it's vegan bone broth. Obviously, it's not bone broth. It's vegan. It's soup, essentially. So there we go. Right, let's talk about some fun stuff. And I have got some fun stuff to talk about. We'll probably rattle through some of these things. I have finished The Caped Crusader. Episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10. Done and dusted. Thoughts? It was good. By the end, it was very much a... you can't deny that it's good. It's one of those situations. I'll hold my hands up and say I immediately had to put Batman the Animated Series on afterwards, just to kind of recenter myself. A few things to take away. An interesting thing I'd written down and then it changed, and I was like, interesting. Batman refers to Alfred as Pennyworth through the entire series until the last episode, where he goes to say Pennyworth and then says Alfred. I think that it feels like a sort of a transition where they've gone from being master, no, don't like that word, and butler, I'm trying to stay away from servant, to friends, I think is what that's showing there. Episode 9 and 10 really highlights, in a lot of ways, Batman is vulnerable. Ultimately, especially in its infancy as a crime fighter, if you hit him in the head with a metal pipe, it's probably going to have some repercussions. They tackled Two-Face as a character, which I was not sure how I was going to feel, and wasn't sure about their design they'd gone for. However, by the back end of that sort of part of the story, I was like, I think you've done this really well. And I'd had a conversation with somebody where I was going through the pros and the cons of the series, and the person I was talking to was talking about the Joker, and I was like, well, the Joker's not been in it, and I honestly don't think they will do the Joker this series. It's definitely getting another series. I imagine it's going to get a series of series. The very last thing in the series was the introduction of the Joker. Interesting. They didn't show too much. That's probably a spoiler, by the way. Shit. Overall, it was good. It was really good. And there's a part of me that's pained to say that, but I think if you go and you look at the names on the opening credits, the people that were responsible for it as a show, they probably weren't going to do it dirty, if you know what I mean. So I think they've done well. I was watching a TV show quite some time ago, and I finally finished it. It's a TV series called Beer Master. It's all about brewing beer when craft beer brewing was big on my list of things. So there's the final. There was so much about the final that was just baffling. But hands down, the single most baffling thing about the final was they've done 10 episodes about craft brewing. And they were like, our brewery for the final episode, the culmination of all of this is Stella. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? There's a bit where one of the British guys, was sampling the Stella and put the glass to his lips, and not a single drop of that liquid touched his lips. And I went, yeah, there you go. That guy there thinks that stuff is basically piss. The other mental thing about the final was that one of the teams had 3 beers in the final. One of the teams had 0 beers in the final, and every other team had 1 beer in the final. And I'm like, we're supposed to guess who's going to win this one? See if you can guess who won. It's one of those, I was like, this is mental. One of those series, I'm glad I finished it in the end. It's taken me months to get through it. Not one I would really recommend. There was a lot wrong with it, let's put it that way. Movie-wise, I mentioned earlier that I got on the treadmill this evening instead of having any tea. Part of the reason is so that I could bring you something in this podcast. And that was a movie. And a movie that I'd nearly finished, and I really wanted to talk about it this week. So I was like, fuck it, let's get on the treadmill and let's get this bad boy knocked out. So, I finally got to see The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Not going to lie, I was really looking forward to this film. And I mean, really looking forward to this film. Now, I think we can all appreciate when you're really looking forward to something that in itself has that opportunity to go horribly, horribly wrong. Short version is that was not the case with this. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is an absolute banger of a movie. It is just a jolly good time. It had people in that I was like, I'm really glad this person's in it. Henry Cavill. I like Henry Cavill. I feel that Hollywood has done that man dirty, and I like to see him in stuff doing well. He was fantastic in this. Alan Richardson? Reacher? Was in it. He was also great. There was a load of other people. Some people you go, I recognise that guy from something. I will say this, and I will hold my hands up on this one. The main lady in it, I am not a fan of. She has been in a series of different things that I've seen her in, and I am not a fan of her in things. There's one film that she was in that I did enjoy her in. Unfortunately, it's probably on a list of films that you can't really talk about these days. However, in this, I will give her a pass. She was okay in this. Everybody else was absolutely fantastic, and it is a banger of a film. I heartily recommend it. I already know I'm going to watch it again. It's the story of what is essentially the first special forces, special operations mission. Winston Churchill's personal files were unlocked in 2016, I think it was, and that's allowed a series of stories to come out, and this is one of them. Directed by Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie seems to be on a bit of a roll, having had a bit of a up and down time of things. A lot of his recent films have been absolute bangers. Films that I've seen multiple times, and I know this is going to be going firmly on that list. Thoroughly enjoyable. Just a good time from start to finish. The sort of film that puts a smile on your face while you're watching it. Just good film. It's one of those I feel like I want to go into stuff, but I don't want to spoil anything. I heartily recommend it. Absolutely. One thing I will say is this. I really do think I'm going to have to stop watching trailers. The trailer for the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was so heavily loaded with essentially the first half of the film that when stuff comes up, you're like, I've seen this. By the time I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, and I said this when I reviewed it, I'd basically seen it. Going to the cinema was like a formality for that film. I basically had seen and knew everything about that movie before I saw it, and I'd actively tried to avoid stuff. So I think I'm just going to have to stop watching trailers full stop at this point. Outside of that, absolute banger. I want to give a quick mention to a couple of games. I have to do the couple of flat games. I think I have to refer to them as these days. Two games in question are Titanfall 2 and Far Cry 3. Titanfall 2 is what me and a friend of mine talk about as a 6-hour absolute no fat, just a jolly good time. Why do I mention it? I bought it for £2.49 on Steam, and over the last sort of couple of weeks I've basically plugged away at it, little bits here and there, and absolute corker of a game. If you want a story-ish driven well-made, single-player game, you really could not go much further than looking at that game. It is an absolute corker of a game. And every now and then, as I keep saying, as me and a friend of mine keep talking about, every now and then you just want a solid 6 to 8 hour single player game that you can really sink your teeth into and enjoy every minute of. Titanfall 2, you're up. The other game being Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 was in this weekend's Steam deal. I think it, again, was like, it was less than £4, I know that much. I bought it, I played the beginning. The problem with Far Cry 3, and the only problem with Far Cry 3, because it is an absolute monster of a game, is the cutscene at the start of the game is really, really, really long. Outside of that, absolute banger of a game. But it raises a question, and that question is a question I keep putting to the same friend. When was the last truly great game? And why was it Jedi Fallen Order? Notice I said Jedi Fallen Order, not Jedi Survivor, because Jedi Survivor was utter garbage. Titanfall 2, there's been nothing Titanfall based since it, so can't really comment on that one. Far Cry 3 has had, I think, it's either 4 or 5 games since Far Cry 3. And notice how I say Far Cry 3 is one of the best games out there. Yes, nothing since it has come even close. In fact, one of the Far Cries was particularly bad that I played. One of them was that bad that I never even got near it because the reviews were so bad. When was the last truly great game? If you know, let me know. Let's get into a conversation about this. I feel this is a very valid question. VR. Let's talk about Into the Radius 2 first. Technically, I believe I've finished it. Now, it feels weird saying that because I haven't. I've just finished what's available. There is a series of sections of the game that aren't available, and it's obviously, it's an early access thing. But on the other hand, if you release a game, should it not be in some way close to finished? There are multiple sections that aren't available. I have done the last main mission, and I have also got security level 3, which unlocked a load of stuff which I could not afford. I've started a new playthrough. I'm going to hold my hands up and say I may have stumbled across a way to massage the game, and I may have increased the money aspect, shall we say. But it's a second playthrough. I don't feel I'm it's not naughty if you've already played it properly. Yesterday I decided that I needed to give Into the Radius 2 a little bit of a break, because obviously if the game itself isn't finished and I just keep hammering it, when it comes around to giving more content, I might not want to play it as much. So I was like, I need to give this a break for a little while. So I put Zero Caliber 2 on. Apparently there's been a recent patch for the game. I can't say I massively noticed much difference. I don't want to talk too negatively about anything, but ultimately, all I'll say about this game is do not believe the hype. It's just I would say it's just quite below par. Graphically, it's not great. Enemy-wise, it's not great. Weapon-wise, it's not great. They keep raving on about how amazing the weapons are in the game. And some of the weapons I look at and go, this weapon isn't accurate in a lot of ways. It's fine. It's fun. It's okay to play. But more often than not, I'm like, this is just subpar. And again, it's early access. I hope that as a game, it gets pulled up by its bootstraps. But my fear is that might not be the case. But we'll see. It's only had 1 or 2 patches so far, so we'll see what comes of it. There we go. Obviously, I hope nobody was triggered by anything in this podcast. And like I say, I will put a disclaimer at the start, so hopefully we are covered. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for being here, and I'll catch you next time. So there you go. What do you think of that? Was it bad? Did I offend anybody? I hope, honestly, genuinely, I hope nothing offended. As I hope I covered, it's just something that I've been going through, dealing with, trying, experimenting, etc. There may be another episode that talks about, at which point it ends. I don't know. It's just a thing at the moment. So there we go. If you made it this far, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Before you leave us, please do, consider clicking the like button, share the podcast around, subscribe if you haven't already, check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button. You can use those to get in touch with us if you want to have a chat about anything. I think that's it. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of CookieCast.